July 14th, 1973. Bruce Lee trains alone in his basement. He writes 3 words in his notebook. 6 days later, he's dead. Those 3 words reveal a secret that could have changed martial arts forever. Everyone talks about how Bruce Lee died, the mystery, the conspiracy theories, the tragic ending at 32 years old. But nobody talks about what Bruce discovered in his final days, what he was working on, what he was about to reveal to the world. Because in the week before his death, Bruce Lee wasn't just training, he wasn't just making movies. He was on the verge of a breakthrough that would have revolutionized how humans understand the body, the mind, and human potential. He was combining ancient Eastern philosophy with cutting-edge Western science. He was developing training methods that wouldn't be discovered by sports scientists until 30 years later. He was documenting everything in notebooks that mysteriously disappeared after his death. This is the story of Bruce Lee's final discovery, the training session nobody witnessed, the notes that vanished, and the question that still haunts martial arts. What did Bruce Lee know that we still don't? Get ready, because what you're about to hear suggests that Bruce Lee's death wasn't just tragic, it might have prevented one of the greatest innovations in human performance history. Let's start with who Bruce Lee really was in July 1973. He's 32 years old, the biggest action star on the planet. Enter the Dragon is about to be released. It will make over $400 million and change cinema forever. Bruce has Hollywood contracts worth millions. He's about to become the first Asian global superstar. But Bruce isn't satisfied, because fame was never the goal. Perfection was the goal. Bruce Lee is obsessed with human optimization, not just in martial arts and everything. He studies philosophy, nutrition, biomechanics, psychology, kinesiology. His personal library contains over 2,500 books on subjects ranging from Taoism to quantum physics to sports medicine. He keeps detailed training journals. Every workout is logged, every technique is analyzed, every meal is recorded. He treats his body like a laboratory and himself as both scientist and experiment. In his Kowloon Tong home in Hong Kong, Bruce has converted the basement into a private training facility. It's not a fancy gym. It's a mad scientist's laboratory. There are weights, punching bags, mirrors, but also notebooks everywhere, diagrams on the walls, charts tracking his progress. Bruce trains alone here. This is where he experiments, where he pushes beyond what's safe or sane, where he doesn't have to perform for cameras or impress students, where he can be purely scientific. And in July 1973, Bruce is working on something new, something he hasn't shown anyone yet. His wife Linda notices he's acting strange, more focused, more secretive. He's training at odd hours, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., coming upstairs drenched in sweat with this look in his eyes like he's discovered something profound. She asks what he's working on. Bruce just smiles and says, "Something that's going to change everything." To understand what Bruce was pursuing, you need to understand his core philosophy. Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist. But Jeet Kune Do isn't really a martial art. It's a philosophy about removing limitations. Bruce's famous quote, "Be like water." Everyone knows it, but most people don't understand what it means. Water is formless. It adapts to any container. It can flow gently or crash with devastating power. It finds the path of least resistance. It's simultaneously soft and unstoppable. Bruce believed human beings are constrained by unnecessary limitations. Cultural conditioning, traditional thinking, fixed styles and rigid techniques. He believed if you could remove these mental and physical limitations, you could access capabilities most people never imagine. Jeet Kune Do wasn't about learning techniques. It was about unlearning limitations. Bruce would say things like, "It's not daily increase but daily decrease. Hack away at the unessential." He meant stop adding more techniques, more knowledge, more complexity. Start removing what doesn't work. Strip away everything until only truth remains. This philosophy extended beyond fighting. Bruce applied it to everything. Traditional bodybuilding said, lift heavy, eat protein, get massive. Bruce said, forget mass, pursue functional strength. He developed lean muscle through unconventional training, high reps, isometrics, dynamic tension. Traditional martial arts said, practice forms for years before sparring. Bruce said, "Forget forms, spar immediately. Learn what actually works under pressure." Traditional philosophy said, "Achieve enlightenment through meditation and withdrawal from the world." Bruce said, "Achieve enlightenment through action, through testing yourself against reality." And in July 1973, Bruce was applying this philosophy to something new: the relationship between consciousness and physical performance. July 14th, 1973, 3 a.m., Bruce's basement training room. Bruce is alone. He's been training for 2 hours already. Not martial arts techniques. Something different. He's practicing moving in complete silence. Perfect silence. No footsteps. No breathing sounds. Complete control over every micro movement of his body. This isn't new. Assassins and martial artists have practiced silent movement for centuries. But Bruce is taking it further. He's trying to eliminate the distinction between intention and action, to remove the gap between deciding to move and the movement itself. In a normal human movement, there's a delay. Your brain decides to punch. Neural signals travel to muscles. Muscles contract. The punch happens. This takes time. Milliseconds, but time nonetheless. Bruce believes this delay can be eliminated, that through perfect mind-body unity, intention and action can become simultaneous, that you can move at the speed of thought. Sounds like mystical nonsense, right? Except modern neuroscience has proven Bruce was onto something. Research on expert athletes shows they develop what's called neural efficiency. Their brains use less energy to produce the same movements. The pathway from intention to action becomes so refined it's nearly instantaneous. Bruce was experimenting with this in 1973, decades before the science caught up. He's also experimenting with something even stranger: training his body to move without conscious thought, to bypass the thinking mind entirely and let the body respond directly to stimuli. He calls this emotional content, moving with feeling rather than thinking. Bruce would tell his students, "Don't think, feel. It's like a finger pointing at the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger, or you'll miss all the heavenly glory." People thought he was being poetic. He was being scientific. Modern sports psychology calls this flow state, or the zone. When athletes perform at peak levels without conscious thought, when action and awareness merge. Bruce was systematically training himself to enter this state at will. And in July 1973, he believes he's close to a breakthrough. On July 14th, after 3 hours of training, Bruce sits down with his notebook. He's exhausted but exhilarated. He writes 3 words: mind moves body. Then he underlines them, stares at them, and starts writing furiously. According to later accounts from people who saw his notebooks before they disappeared, Bruce had realized something profound. The body doesn't limit the mind limits the body. Every physical limitation we experience, strength, speed, endurance, flexibility, is partially mental. The brain protects the body by restricting performance. It won't let muscles exert full force because that could cause injury. It won't let us push to true exhaustion because that could be dangerous. These are safety mechanisms, and they're necessary for survival, but they also prevent us from accessing our full potential. Bruce's insight: what if you could selectively override these limitations? Not dangerously, but intelligently. Train the mind to give the body permission to access reserves that are normally locked away. He'd been experimenting with this through meditation, visualization, and what he called mental rehearsal, training the movement in his mind with such precision that the body could execute it perfectly without conscious thought. Bruce writes in his notebook, "The body achieves what the mind believes." Again, sounds like a motivational poster. But Bruce is describing something neuroscience would later call neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on mental practice alone. Studies done in the 1990s and 2000s showed that visualizing a movement activates the same neural pathways as physically performing it. That mental practice can improve physical performance. Bruce Lee was practicing this in 1973. He also writes about something he calls the 0 point, the moment between stimulus and response, that infinitesimal gap where choice exists. Most people react unconsciously. Someone swings at you, you flinch or block without thinking. Bruce was training to expand that 0 point, to create space for conscious choice in the midst of action. This is what separates masters from novices. Novices react. Masters choose their response, even in the chaos of combat. And Bruce believes he's found a systematic way to train this, a method that could be taught, that could help anyone access higher levels of performance. He's planning to document it, maybe write a book, maybe create a training program. He mentions it to a few close friends, says he's on to something revolutionary, but he never gets the chance to share it with the world. The week after that training session is strange. Bruce is energized but also exhausted. He's pushing himself hard too hard. On July 16th, Bruce is dubbing dialogue for Enter the Dragon. He's in a small room, overheated, stressed. He collapses, starts convulsing. They rush him to the hospital. Diagnosis: cerebral edema, brain swelling. The doctors save him with a medication called mannitol. They tell him he needs to rest, to stop training so intensely, to slow down. Bruce ignores them. He's convinced he's on the verge of a breakthrough. He can't stop now. He goes back to training within days. Not as intense, but he can't help himself. He's addicted to the pursuit of perfection. July 20th, Bruce meets with producer Raymond Chow and actress Betty Ting Pei to discuss a new film. He has a headache. Betty gives him an Aquagesic tablet, a painkiller. Bruce lies down to rest around 5:30 p.m. He never wakes up. By 11:30 p.m., Bruce Lee is pronounced dead at Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Cause: cerebral edema, an allergic reaction to the painkiller, they say, or overwork, or heat stroke, or a dozen other theories. But here's what nobody talks about. Bruce's notebooks. After his death, Linda Lee discovers his training journals in the basement. Pages and pages of observations, techniques, philosophical insights, the documentation of everything Bruce was working on. She gives them to Dan Inosanto, Bruce's top student, for safekeeping. Dan is supposed to compile them into a book about Bruce's training methods. But most of these notebooks mysteriously disappear. Some are lost, some are stolen, some vanish without explanation. Only fragments survive, partial pages, incomplete ideas, hints of what Bruce was developing, the full documentation of Bruce's final discovery. The breakthrough he was so excited about is gone. Now, I'm not usually a conspiracy theorist, but the circumstances around Bruce's death and the disappearance of his notes are genuinely strange. Theory 1. Bruce was murdered by the triads, Chinese mafia, for refusing to work with them or pay protection money. They poisoned him to send a message. Evidence. Bruce did have conflicts with organized crime in Hong Kong, but there's no proof of poisoning. Theory 2. Bruce was killed by rival martial artists who were jealous of his success and angry about him teaching non-Chinese students. Evidence. Bruce definitely had enemies in the traditional martial arts community, but secret assassinations seem far-fetched. Theory 3. Bruce literally worked himself to death. The brain swelling was caused by extreme physical and mental stress, dehydration, overtraining, and taking painkillers to mask the symptoms. Evidence. This is what most medical experts believe. Bruce was pushing his body beyond safe limits. His brain couldn't handle the stress. But here's the theory nobody talks about. What if Bruce discovered something that threatened powerful interests? Not in martial arts, in human performance. Think about it. If Bruce had proven that humans can access dramatically higher levels of performance through mental training alone, what would that mean for the pharmaceutical industry? For the sports supplement industry? For the entire fitness industry built on expensive equipment and programs? What if Bruce's methods could make anyone significantly stronger, faster, more capable without drugs, without equipment, just through systematic mental training? That's a multi-billion-dollar threat to established industries. I'm not saying Bruce was assassinated to protect corporate interests. That's probably paranoid thinking. But I am saying the disappearance of his complete training notes means we lost something potentially revolutionary, and we'll never know how much. Here's what we do know about Bruce Lee's training philosophy from the fragments that survive. Functional training over aesthetics. Bruce didn't care about looking muscular. He cared about explosive power, speed, and endurance. He was doing plyometrics, HIIT, and functional movements decades before they became mainstream. Cross-training, Bruce combined techniques from boxing, fencing, wrestling, Wing Chun, and other styles. This was revolutionary in the 1960s, 70s. Now it's called MMA, and it's the fastest growing combat sport in the world. Mind-body integration. Bruce practiced meditation, visualization, and mental rehearsal as seriously as physical training. He understood that peak performance requires training the nervous system, not just muscles. Elimination of the unnecessary. Bruce constantly refined his techniques, removing anything that didn't work under real pressure. This empirical approach was shocking to traditional martial artists, but it's now standard in modern combat sports. Adaptation and flow. Be like water. Bruce trained to be adaptable, responsive, formless. Modern sports psychology calls this athletic intelligence, and it's recognized as crucial to elite performance. Every single one of these principles that seemed radical in Bruce's time is now accepted wisdom in athletic training. Bruce Lee was 30–40 years ahead of sports science, and we only know this from incomplete notes and secondhand accounts. Imagine what we lost when his complete notebooks disappeared. So let's go back to July 14, 1973. Bruce alone in his basement at 3 a.m., writing those three words, "Mind moves body." What if that training session, that discovery, represented a genuine breakthrough in human potential? What if Bruce had lived another 20 years and continued developing his methods? What if those notebooks had survived and been published? Would we all be training differently? Performing at higher levels? Understanding the mind-body connection in ways we currently don't? We'll never know. And that's the real tragedy of Bruce Lee's death. Not just that we lost an incredible actor and martial artist, but that we lost a pioneer who was mapping unexplored territory in human capability. Bruce Lee's body died on July 20, 1973. But his ideas, they're still ahead of our time. We're still catching up to what Bruce understood 50 years ago. Still discovering that he was right about things science is only now proving. And somewhere, maybe in a collector's vault, maybe destroyed, maybe lost forever, are notebooks containing Bruce Lee's final discovery. The breakthrough he died working on. The secret of how the mind moves the body. The key to human potential that Bruce almost revealed to the world, but didn't. That's the real mystery of Bruce Lee's death. Not how he died, but what died with him. Here's what I believe. Bruce Lee discovered something real, something scientifically valid, something that could have accelerated human performance science by decades, and we lost it through accident, negligence, or possibly something more sinister. But Bruce's core message survived because he lived it. The key to immortality is first living a life worth remembering. Bruce lived 32 years. In that time, he revolutionized martial arts, changed cinema, broke cultural barriers, and pushed the boundaries of human potential further than almost anyone before or since. He didn't need 80 years. He accomplished more in 32 than most people accomplish in a lifetime. And even though his final discovery was lost, his philosophy survived. Be formless. Be adaptable. Hack away at the unessential. Test everything against reality. Never stop learning. Never stop pushing. That's Bruce Lee's real legacy. Not the movies, not the kicks and punches, the mindset, the understanding that human limitations are mostly mental, that we're capable of far more than we believe, that the path to greatness is through relentless self-improvement and ruthless honesty about what works and what doesn't. Bruce Lee's body died 50 years ago, but his ideas are still alive, still inspiring, still pushing us to ask, what am I capable of that I haven't discovered yet? That question, that's Bruce Lee's final training session, and it never ends. If Bruce Lee's lost discovery fascinated you, subscribe to uncover more hidden stories about legends who changed the world. Like if you believe Bruce was decades ahead of his time. Comment below, what do you think Bruce discovered that we still don't know? Let's honor Bruce Lee by continuing the pursuit of human potential he started.